Alrighty, folks, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Virginia Community Overwatch Invitational Special Edition, Monday night, 9 p.m. We've got a great match for you. It's a matchup of Southwest Virginia rivals. It is Virginia Tech versus Radford, and joining me as my co-commentator today, it's the man, the myth, the legend himself, the man who does not go warp speed on the feed drive when he plays Reinhardt. It is Pulse, the legend. How are you doing?
That was a title. Holy crap. Warp speed on the feed drive. Man, I need to write that down somewhere.
Yeah,
But
I
I've been
stole that one.
where'd you get it from?
I stole it from a Vast
Oh
who was
god, of
on
course
the
it's a
stream.
vast.
Yep, he was on the stream with Sideshow during one of the Owl matches, and I think it was Bumper who was basically feeding like he always does, yet still winning.
Okay. Well, that's a good one to note for later, but as Hodo said, we have a really good matchup tonight between Virginia Tech and Radford. So Southwest Virginia gets to battle it out. We can kind of make some guesses based on this just because we know the tournament SRs and we know the teams. We know Virginia Tech is a little bit higher, but hopefully Radford can pull some energy out and put up a good fight tonight.
Yeah, let's hope we can see that. We want to see definitely a good game, and Radford definitely wants to show their bigger, more attended rivals, maybe a thing or two in the game. So, just for you who are joining us for the first time, this is a special invitational tournament featuring the universities in the state of Virginia. You see the 6 universities here up on your screen. It is GMU, Radford, Virginia Tech, Old Dominion University, James Madison University, and Shenandoah. We are in the final round of our Swiss stage, which means all 6 teams have supposedly been playing each other here to determine seeding for the playoffs, which will start this weekend. All 6 teams will make it into the playoffs, and the final 4 teams will be playing at a LAN event at George Mason University on April 5th. So you'll get to see that live. It'll be part of a great sort of on site computer games festival as part of the George Mason University day of events there. So let's take a look at the matchup here between the 2 teams, Virginia Tech and Radford. So first, it is the Virginia Tech Hokies. Average SR of 4,200 here, and it's Photon and Twixion here as the DPS. Pryman, Aidenod are your tanks, and Jaylet and Avison here are going to be your supports. Both teams here are sort of filing in, and it looks like we do have a possible sub here. It will be Baystad playing in for Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech currently is missing one of its members, but he should be in shortly. For the Radford roster, we've got a group of 7, couple people on the bench here for Radford. They are at 2,600, a mid-diamond, mid-platinum team, but doesn't mean anything if you do have good teamwork. Good plat teams can do some damage. So topside horse, base dad here on DPS, CBP, Starmie are your tanks. Connor, NFL, and Taco Bell, along with Scrub Lord, are your supports. Pulse, seeing the average SR difference here, what do you think Radford University can do to sort of get sort of basically sort of match that gap here between Virginia Tech? Is there anything they can probably do here?
Uh well, if you listen to Twitch chat from Overwatch League, I think
Hmm.
the biggest piece of advice you can get from that is don't feed forehead. But this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. When it's like we know the SRs, it is very heavily favored towards Virginia Tech. So we kind of, if Radford wants to take a map, or honestly, like I think taking a map is their best bet
Hmm.
for tonight. Their sort of desired goal. If they want to do that, they really want to be playing in top form, and that's just minimize the mistakes, make sure that they're playing together. Maybe they don't necessarily need to be playing that the meta goats comp, the triple triple. If they can play something that they're a little bit more comfortable with, and maybe play to counter pick strengths a little bit. But again, we'll have to see how it plays out and sort of how these teams are approaching this, because as of tomorrow, we know that the new hero is dropping. So this might also be a good opportunity for Virginia Tech to sort of be experimenting with some composition, since they know they have that SR advantage.
Hmm.
And if they are doing something like that, that might be an opportunity for Redford to take off a map or surprise them a little bit here and there.
All right. So maybe some things that Radford could do here with regards to the matchup here against Virginia Tech. Let's take a look at the format for the games. It will be Oasis here to start off, as we will be starting on a control point map here. We will then go to hybrid, and then the way the format works is that the losing team from the previous map will get to choose from the map pool. We will then go to assault, and if there were any draws during the match, we will play a third map, assuming that a team has not acquired 2 points, and it will go to escort. So the only map unavailable during the VCOI is Paris. So Paris will not be available here for 2CP, but every map is available to both teams to see if they can have an advantage here. So the opening map is going to be Oasis, and tell me about Oasis, Pulses. This is not a sort of control map that is favored by a lot of people, just because the maps are very, very different. But
Mhm.
I think it does play it have sort of issues with regards to all the three different versions of the map. So you've got like gardens, you have city center, and then you have university, which all play very, very differently to each other.
Yeah, of course. And speaking from just a map perspective, a lot of control points generally when they're sort of released by Blizzard have sort of some sort of favoring towards different tank lineups on each map. And there's always one that's a little bit of sort of a kink in the pattern. So Oasis, generally you'll see a lot of Winston Diva because of the high grounds on Gardens and City Center.
Hmm.
But University's sort of that curveball, in that it really favors Reinhardt over pretty much any other tank. So no matter what, with the way the game is right now, with the way the meta is right now, if University comes up, we will likely see Goats v Goats. So that Ryan, Zarya, Brig, Lucio, and then sort of pluses. You might see a Somber, you might see some other stuff, but that core of four sort of is what you're expecting to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
However, with City Center and with Gardens, it's a lot more open to running triple TPS, running Pharah. So those are the two maps that I think Radford wants to try and take advantage of if they want to push this, because it's going to be very hard to beat Virginia Tech at Goats, especially since that has been the meta for so long now. It's been over around a year, kind of like Dive before it.
Hmm.
And Virginia Tech is just going to be practiced on it. If not, then you're kind of throwing as a high level team, and you don't want to have to try and force a mirror comp when teams are this big of a skill difference.
Welcome to Oasis.
Alrighty, so we are going to go in here to Oasis to start off with, and
Initiating
it will be
match.
Radford here in red and Virginia Tech here in blue. So you will see Virginia Tech here on the blue side, Radford in red. You see this. We will be starting here in University. So both teams here are probably going to be playing more of a ground and pound here. Pulse, you think?
Yeah, definitely University. You might see, so we mentioned it earlier, but we will definitely see some form of
Ready
Diva,
for battle.
Zarya, Brig, Lucio, that sort of variant from both teams, or at least from Radford, because I don't think they have many other options to pick here,
Hmm.
especially as the lower team, and this one does favor Goats so heavily. But on other maps, that's really where you're going to probably see some variance from that, especially from Radford, because they want to
5,
try and
4,
break Virginia Tech in
3,
some way. They
2,
know if they're going to be
1.
playing this exact
Round
same
1.
6v6 mirror
Capture the
comp, they're
objective.
likely not going to win. So this one is going to be the one map where they're going to kind of have to just shrug it off to an extent, because they know that they're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, here they come. They're already engaging here right onto the point as CBP tries to sort of come in on Primo. And not going to be able to do so. CBP goes down right away, so losing the Reinhardt here for Radford is going to be huge. So Photon getting 3 big kills here on the side here of Virginia Tech, and they're just sort of forcing their way through. They win the first fight here and will unlock the point. That seemed like an easy fight here for Virginia Tech.
This is a little bit different too, because they don't have the Zen that Strelexia is playing right now,
Hmm.
so they don't have that Discord pressure. That's why we saw Primo just hold left click and sort of run through him, because as soon as he got Discord, he just melted.
Ooh, Earthshatter coming in is going to hit most of the members here of Virginia Tech as they, of Radford, as Virginia Tech here rolling again. Scrublord having issues trying to even come out of spawn. Primo and Twiction there pushing the rest of the members of Radford back. This is going to be very, very problematic for them to even get out of spawn here. It looks like Virginia Tech has established point here.
Yeah, they established point. They're easily going to build a couple more percentages until we stop seeing some of these sort of ults coming offline from the defense, and we see them changing up comp now, so they're trying to figure out how to break this because they know they don't have this mirror matchup advantage. They're running these DPS now. They're going to have to probably play off Dynamite and Pharah splash damage and hopefully finish kills. Maybe draw them back using this hamster.
Yeah, looks like that's what they're trying to do. Oh, the hamster gets thrown off the side there as Avison did a really good boot, and down goes Starmie. The rest of the members of Virginia Tech are looking scattered. They're trying to make it to the point to maybe even try to sort of force back the members of Virginia Tech. Not going to be able to do so. Avison actually up at the spawn here, 63%, and it's all been Virginia Tech right now.
And Avison doing really good work with the sound barrier this next fight, so really watch out for that as they engage, because that's their big save against all this damage, but also just saving amp really long in fights to make sure they don't get split up and like disheveled in the middle of fights.
Oh, Taco Bell gets taken out there by just sort of a hopeful bomb that was sent by Twiction as she was sort of flying into the air. Earthshatter coming in as CBP charges in, unable to do anything as Twiction finishes him off as he charges in, but a back cap actually happening right now as it looks like the members of Virginia Tech have to realize that they're going to have to fall back a little bit as there is a Pharah in the back. Connor NFL here trying to sort of cap sort of secretly in the back here, but at 99%, he's not going to be able to make it back to the point. And Virginia Tech here draw first blood against Radford.
And unfortunately, Connor was sort of forced off the point before that magic 97%, where it will trigger overtime if you're on the point at around 97%. But was forced off around 95 or so. So unfortunately, not even able to trigger overtime when they're running back with all of those ults that they finally had built up. This next map is real sort of where we will see some form of advantage in the side of Radford, in that they don't have to run goats. Both teams really don't want to, because this is one of the maps that has a very large point. It favors a lot of mobile DPS. So we really want to see Radford play the strengths, make sure that they're not engaging to picks too soon. So what I mean by that is when you call someone out, make sure they take some damage from the Pharah or the Ashe. You have both of that splash, that damage over time, and really play off of that.
Yeah, and it looks like both teams here heading to the high ground, trying to see if they can get high ground control under this point. Twiction actually gets Connor NFL down, along with Base Dad going down also. Looks like Photon on the Pharah here, having his way with the members of Radford as the Rockets are coming in clean, and there's just nothing they can do to stop it. Aidenot finishes off Scrub Lord, and that is going to be that for that fight, as Virginia Tech here takes easy control with regards to this point.
Yeah, that was a very good early kill by Twiction on the Pharah. With the Pharah, there's kind of pharmacy, so good follow-up, good finish, and then after that they were just able to collapse on the entire team. This next fight, we see a lot more going for the defense. They have Diva Bomb almost already. They almost have they're getting close to a blade, not almost have, but there's not a whole lot going in this fight, and when the defense has these types of advantages, you really don't want to make sure you give them more.
Yeah. So you're trying to just make sure that they stay out of the way of the Pharah Rockets here, trying to make sure that they do not get rained down again, as it's going to be sort of Virginia Tech trying to sort of impose their will here. Twiction on the Genji, trying to get in deep, possibly going in for the supports there. Is not going to be able to get any joy. Primo gets an initial kill here onto Base Dad, so the rest of the members of Radford here are going to sort of fall back a little bit, knowing that they've lost one DPS to go. Scrub Lord here playing way far up is going to be able to maybe make it out. Nope! Gets booped out of the way as Primo gets a second kill here, and back again they go into spawn. Radford having a really hard time here on this point.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they really know how to approach it, and the windows that they're getting to deal damage on the defense aren't long enough for them to do lasting, sustaining damage. So Baystat isn't quite able to get a pick, but it's able to shoot like once or twice. The tanks are always being forced back before they can fully commit. So they really need to make use of this nano boost on the Winston, preferably on the Winston, to make some sort of space here.
Oh, Aidenot gets another bomb here right into the background as a blade actually here from Twiction. He's going to try to go for all the members here of Radford. He's only going to be able to get a D-Mech here really on Starmie, as Starmie has to jump off the side. 81% here, and I think this might be it for Radford. They're going to have to see if they're going to be able to control the point, but getting out of spawn here is so problematic if they're starting to get staggered.
Yeah, CBP should be able to touch the point. He has another lead coming up and he's nanoed, so should be able to trigger overtime at the least, but with 5 ults on the defense, 4 ults, there's not going to be a whole lot that the attackers can do here to actually flip the point once.
Yeah, and unfortunately that is going to be that, and Virginia Tech here take a commanding 1-0 lead here in this match against Radford.
Play of the game.
Here's a great play of the game here by Adnod.
This was actually a fantastic play by CBP, able to actually sort of make space, but as soon as Primo saw him pushing forward, just instantly dropped the shatter. So it was a good way of making space, but unfortunately it sort of left his team behind, and they weren't really counting on the shatter. So the Zarya wasn't able to do anything about it, and it just left their entire team vulnerable to it.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunate there for Radford. So it is a 1-0 lead now here for the Virginia Tech Hokies, as now it will be up to Radford here to be able to choose the next map. The next map is going to be a hybrid map, so it's going to be a little hard here for Radford because they're going to need to be able to take initial control. Teams at like the 2600 SR have a tendency to pick King's Row. What do you think here? What would you think would be the best for Radford to do here? They would need something that they would be able to sort of take relatively easily, but against a team of the caliber of Virginia Tech, I don't know if there's any map that is in the pool that would be that would sort of fit that bill, Pulse.
It looks like you called it.
Yeah.
You did say that teams around this SR like to call King's Row. I'd like to kind of expand that to teams around every SR like to call it King's Row, honestly. It's just one map that a lot of people don't hate in Overwatch, so it gets picked on a lot, especially in when loser picks map. It's just the sort of a lot of people's fallback map. So it looks like they are calling for King's Row. And I have to question that a little bit just because that is such a Ryan Zarya comp. And that's something that I do not think Radford has the same ability to hold their ground with as Virginia Tech. So that SR difference, you kind of want to be picking maps that are a little bit weird, or maybe that you have a very unique, special way to defend. But as a defense team, it's very hard to run anything on King's Row other than Orion. And that's sort of, you don't want to take a Ryan v Ryan fight right now as Radford.
Yeah, and that might be a little difficult. But with King's Row, point A is open to like a plethora of comps here. So maybe Radford can scout, try to figure out what Virginia Tech is playing, and then maybe go for hard counters and try to see if they can sort of squeeze a win that way. Maybe get maybe 1 or 2 kills and then try to use staggers to sort of take the point. I'm just trying to see what
there are definitely things you can run on first point, and especially since around the time they changed Sims teleporters, it opened up even more things you can run, because double sniper is common, May was common to an extent. You could run far if you know they're not running a Widow. You could run a low ground Bastion if you know the other team's not running Goats. But ever since they changed the Sim teleporter, you can even run an offensive Sim, teleport the Bastion to high ground just to throw them for a run. So if they have something like that, something a little bit more unique, then they could easily take a couple fights, especially if they're just setting up with a bread and butter defense.
No, absolutely. So it is going to be King's Row that will be the next map. So when we come back, both teams here needing a pause as they're trying to just sort of make sure everything is all right. Oh, actually, no. We were going to go here to a break, but it looks like both teams are going to be ready. So we will be going into King's Row, which is going to be our next map.
Now entering King's Row.
All right, so like we were saying, I really am looking forward to the special sauce that Radford's going to give us here. I think that's really their key to victory, especially against Virginia Tech, just because that 1500 SR gap. And if they rely on this Goats, I think it's going to end up looking a lot like University did, where 1 or 2 fights in, they're just at a huge disadvantage and are forced to swap off to try and make progress. So hopefully they're able to show us something unique here.
As it looks like here, the members of Radford sort of spamming hot dog in the chat here. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like on defense here, Virginia Tech is going to be the first team to settle in, and I do see Strelexia here on a Bastion, but I don't know if that is actually real. No, we see the Bastion actually come out. So
the dream is real.
The dream is indeed real. El Presidente makes an appearance here on defense, and this could be somewhat problematic for Radford here, because breaking a Bastion is very, very difficult, and you do need team organization here. And I am not sure Radford will be able to do so, but let's see them give this a shot, because they will need to sort of focus and make sure that the DPS here contributed by Strelexia is not.
It looks like, I was really hoping for it, because it looked like for a second we were about to get dueling Bastions.
Oh.
It would have been a ride.
as it looks like they come out here. CBP already lost half of his health as he came in, got hit with a fire strike right away, and now is going to be coming out. They're going to realize that the Bastion is right there on the other side. They're going to back up here. There's no way they're going to hang out by that choke, so they're going to try to use base stat here at range to try to take out that Bastion, but with some shielding, it's going to be difficult to break him down. They might need to come in for a comp change here because there's really no easy way to get to him, right, Pulse?
There are some things that they can do, but it would require a lot of coordination, and just having a Widow and Ashe poking without any pressure behind your shield is not one of those ways to do it. So some things definitely need to change, especially with Connor being harassed by Twitchton like this right now.
Yeah, Connor actually gets taken out there by Photon, as now the Bastion is actually rotating. Strelexia actually now has free shots into the choke, as it looks like Radford here are sort of trying to hunt for ideas as they're looking for a way to sort of figure out how they can get into the choke without absolutely getting murdered here. It looks like Connor has actually gone to the Sombra, so maybe a hack is here going to be into play here as they're trying to sort of figure out what they want to do. It looks like they've actually rotated in as Strelexia here is taking out Strumble, but CVP gets a big charge here onto Strelexia, so they lose the Bastion, and they might be able to use this advantage of the fact that they're really close to sort of move on in and have a little window before the Bastion comes back.
With those late stagger kills, that window is going to be very small, but they still have a chance to do it, as long as they just make sure they get in here as fast as possible and make sure that they are mindful of the Bastion as they sort of push through this point. They do have to be careful of this Earth Shatter coming in from Primo, though, because he can just catch them all right around this corner.
Oh, and then as you say that, he does take them all, and down they go. Dragon, just for good measure here, sent through the wall, and Bradford has to go back straight into spawn, and that is going to be that. 2:02 here left on the clock. Their advantage is now Dunzo, and now Primo here right by the door, not giving Radford a chance to even come out.
Their best bet at this point is to wait for an EMP Shatter or some way to guarantee that CBP can get a Shatter off. They have ults that they can use from the supports to make sure they stay alive, but if you want to win a fight, they have a minute left. They can still do as much as they want, so they can just bank these ults for one final push.
Oh, it looks like a Graviton here by the bus is able to catch down CBP. As down he goes. Connor's not fielding the EMP fast enough here, so they only have about a minute 25, so they need to get this EMP up if they're going to want to use it. Taco Bell here also has the ult here on the Zen, so they could maybe use the back of the Transcendence to use that. And as I say that, Caster Curse, Taco Bell gets taken out here by Twitch. Shatter comes in, and actually they catch Primo, and he gets nano boosted here just to make sure he stayed alive during that charge. They had to use it to make sure that he didn't die, but in fact he turns it around, is able to catch down CVP, and now Connor is able to be to actually use the EMP, but unfortunately with no more Shatter here, I don't know if they're going to have any other ults that they can combo with.
Yeah, Connor, we see base stat just getting out of that charge with slightly missed pin and then just shotgunning away. They do have this EMP, they have Transcendence, they have Nano, they have Bob, so things aren't lost. They have EMP Bob and Nano in case, but they really need to make sure they stop getting picked off right around this choke, because they're having a heck of a time just even getting through it.
Yeah, they're having real issues. The EMP actually comes out, but the Transcendence comes out right away to just prevent anything from happening here, as it looks like they're down to last chance saloon time. Taco Bell and Basedad here are the only...
And Primo setting up for another flank Shatter.
Oh, good lord. Here he comes. He's going to be right around the corner. Check your corners. No! Here comes Primo with the big Shatter here, is going to catch Taco Bell and CVP. That is going to be that, I think. Basedad here in Connor NFL are going to be able to make it onto the point. Starmie here on the Hamster is able to take out the Bob here, is able to take out members here of Virginia Tech. Uh-oh, a little overconfidence might cost them here, as Strelexia is going to be onto the point. They do get at least a tick here, so no draw even possible. They come back in, Taco Bell unable to make it back on the point. Oh, just a little late, and ooh, almost cost them there at the end. Radford University do get about 42% here on the point.
Yeah, so they don't go home with nothing. They do end up winning a fight and taking some point progress, but this is going to be near impossible for them to hold, especially since we saw Virginia Tech kind of toying with them to an extent. Like, we saw a Graviton shot straight up and then catch CBP at one point. We saw them sort of doing a very forward hold. So things aren't really looking very winnable at this point for Radford.
Yeah,
but
let's
as
see if
far
Radford...
as going against a GM team, because early on in Open Div when it came out, I was on one of those teams where it's like, yeah, we're like, high plat at the time, and we're facing all these like GM teams, and even winning a fight, honestly, is should be your goal because it
Ready
doesn't
for
really
battle.
happen. It's something that you can figure out and be like, okay, well, how can we apply things that helped us win this fight to help us win more fights? And it's a very good sort of VOD experience for going on and figuring out how to step your game up one more
Attackers
time and
incoming in
like step
30
at a time and
seconds.
figure out over time how to improve.
Yeah. Well, they almost got it there at the end. If it wasn't, they did have Strelexia there actually have to save
Yeah,
them
they
as.
lost track of the Bastion though. That was their big problem. Is they ended up winning the fight off of a Bob and a Nano onto a
Mhm.
Starmie, and that cleaned up. They got a lot of kills, but they did lose track of the Bastion. At the end, the
Five,
Bastion just popped back
four,
in and then chucked
three,
down the Bob,
two,
then chucked down the
one.
Hammond, and then forced
Attackers
Sombra off the point.
incoming.
So that's
Yeah.
sort of what
Defend
happened there
objective
at the end.
A.
And let's see what Virginia Tech here are going to be able to do. Oh, there is a May on the field, so the ice wall actually does not prevent them from coming down. Baystad here on the Bastion is going to be able to see if they can sort of take anybody out. They realize that the Bastion is there, so the team is sort of split as a charge comes in, as Starimi gets eliminated there by Aidenod. But they're going to trap them sort of behind their spawn, so they're not going to be able to sort of come in here. The rest of the members of Radford here have sort of moved themselves into the hotel and are just trying to sort of save themselves. CVP, excuse me, is sort of trapped onto the point, and there go the remaining members of Radford, and that, I think, is going to be that. Virginia Tech here will take Kings Row and the match 2-0.
Very clean play by Virginia Tech. They were sort of doing some meme strats in the middle, but overall, they're using all of their ults how they needed to. They're catching 4 or 5 people every time, so just very clean play, and that's sort of what we expect to see from Virginia Tech in this tournament, especially since early on, I think Virginia team was one of the first teams we actually tested together, Hodo,
Yep, it
and
was.
it was them and George Mason,
That's
and
right.
that was a very good game. So like, unfortunately for George Mason, they can use this for like sort of scouting to see how they play, but also at the same time, this is the type of play you want to see between these sort of top
Someone
two
needs to
teams
show
later
how
on.
it's done.
Exactly. You definitely want to see a performance like that from one of your better teams here in the league. There is another GM team here besides George Mason that are in this tournament, and it's a team that hasn't been featured. It is the James Madison University team out of Harrisonburg. Which we haven't seen here on the stream, but we'll probably see them here this weekend. Both teams here falling out of the lobby. It was a little bit of an expected result here between the two teams. So unfortunately for Radford, 42% on Kings Row was the best that they can do, but you know what? That's actually not that bad there, I think, against a 4300 SR team from Virginia Tech. Final thoughts, Pulse, on this match?
Well, I know as a friend of Virginia Tech, you have to be happy after this, but again, I think that's a really sort of what we were expecting. It's a very good showing from Virginia Tech as they're sort of one of the teams that's really competing to be top dog in this tournament.
Mhm.
And then again from Radford, you want to fight, you got some point progress. That's not a total loss. There are things you can definitely improve on, especially things that it's probably a little bit easier to see in cast since we get that third person's perspective. But it's also good for footage for sort of taking down the line and using to improve as a team later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you pull what you can out of this match and you go forward. There are teams here in the tournament that are a little bit more going to be a little bit more sort of on the level for Radford. So you've got your ODUs, your Shenandoah universities who we've seen play before. So that's what they're going to be looking forward to. Everybody will be reseeded for the playoffs. So just a reminder to everyone on the stream, the playoffs will commence here on Saturday starting at noon. Games to be determined, so check the Discord for the schedule to see whether your team is playing at 12 or at 1:30 Eastern Time here on the channel. But for Pulse, I am Hodo. Thank you so much for joining us for this special presentation of the VCOI, a Monday night special here between Virginia Tech and Radford University. Virginia Tech here are the winners 2-0 here over Radford. For Pulse, I'm Hodo. Thank you so much and have a good evening.